Ladies and gentlemen, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We've got yet another series of leaks for the Verdansk update here in Black Ops 6 and Warzone, and this one in specific is one that's been around for a few days. I've been sort of thinking about it, trying to piece together how it may make sense, but now looking at it, it does seem like Verdansk is doing something very interesting when it comes to the long-term approach. Obviously, Verdansk dropping right on April 3rd when Season 3 goes live is going to be a huge thing in and of itself. We all know the nostalgia is going to hit. They are going to have a ton of players. Thousands upon thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of players return just to try and experience Verdansk again, see what's up, see if they like the feel of the current game, and if it brings back the memories of, the original version of Warzone during Warzone 1. I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a rude awakening that Warzone is not what it once was, but for other people, they might like some of the new changes. I'm sure there's going to be a nice little split decision there, as there always is with the COD community, but you also have to think of the bigger picture here with the return of Verdansk, particularly how are they going to keep players on a map that we already played for essentially 2 years, right? Throughout MW 2019 and Cold War. While yes, it is the map that everyone's requested we get back in Warzone because they just haven't enjoyed the big maps since then, or they don't feel like they're as good as Verdansk is or was. The longevity of Verdansk is a major concern. That's always going to be a problem with remasters. Is yes, it's cool for a week or two or a month or two, but then beyond that, yeah, it's something you've played before, so you're used to it. It's not going to hold your attention for as long. But some new leaks actually tease what could be an ongoing community event based around Verdansk that could certainly keep players' attention beyond that first little initial hype wave and nostalgia wave for the return of Verdansk. So a leak that we covered previously stems from the Ghost of Hope, and it talks about sort of the long-term vision for Verdansk, right? Hope says Verdansk map updates, both new and returning, are planned throughout Black Ops 6 seasons and beyond, potentially to keep people interested, as I was just saying. They're not going to just keep the map as the OG March 2020 version forever. So as I mentioned, we've talked about this leak before. We'll probably recap it some, and some everything you need to know videos are for reference and context in some future upcoming videos as well. But this does imply that throughout Verdansk and its future here from Season 3 to Season 3 Reloaded, Season 4 and beyond, we're probably going to see them cycle through some of the classic map updates that we saw back in the day, whether that is opening up the train station or blowing up the stadium roof. Whatever the case is, we saw various map updates happen throughout the original Verdansk that were all seemingly positively received for the most part. But then also new map updates, never before seen changes to Verdansk, are supposedly planned as well, where maybe they melt the water in the dam and then that melts and the dam overflows and part of Verdansk is covered in water then, so we actually have the water mechanic on the map, or they change up various different POIs. The possibilities there, quite frankly, endless. We're just going to have to see what happens over time. However, another data miner and leaker, Verdansk sort of added on to Hope's initial leak here of Verdansk map updates, simply saying Verdansk tokens. Now, way long ago, like I want to say a couple weeks, month plus ago, I ended up seeing one tweet surface from an account I didn't recognize on Twitter talking about how apparently in the files there are Verdansk token references, and this is presumably like a new in-game currency of some kind. Like obviously we've got Call of Duty points already for spending all your money in the store, which they want you to do constantly, right? But then Verdansk tokens showed up and we weren't really sure what exactly is going on here. Now keep in mind, this is just a leak, this is just a rumor. At the end of the day, we're gonna have to wait for official confirmation to say, okay, this is 100% what's going to happen here. But according to Verdansk, who's got a very credible track record up until this point, he gets asked, what are Verdansk tokens for? And Verdansk responds saying, every time the community reaches a milestone of collecting a certain amount, the version of Verdansk that is available cycles through. So this is particularly interesting, and quite frankly, I actually think this lines up with a leak that we heard way long ago. I want to say it was from Insider Gaming and Tom Henderson, mentioning that with the return of Verdansk, we'd be seeing the fan favorite version of the map debut. But obviously that's a pretty subjective thing. You know, your fan favorite version of Verdansk might be during Cold War and it was Nakatomi Tower where you could land in and get specialist off the rip in 100 grand and just go and fry the whole lobby. Other players' fan favorite version might be when they they, destroyed this stadium entirely in Cold War, or when they blew the roof off during Modern Warfare 2019, or during the Halloween event, right? Like, there's so many different versions of Verdansk that we played that could be considered fan favorites. What's to say, Call of Duty is determining this is the fan favorite one, right? Outside of maybe like this is when we had our peak player count or something. But if we're seeing this sort of revolving door of Verdansk versions based off of community landmarks with collecting tokens, well then yeah, the fan favorite version of Verdansk could be returning, because it's always going to be an alternate version or a recycled version from a different standpoint and different era in Warzone's history. And this is particularly interesting. It both lines up with that leak from way long ago, but then also this leak from the Ghost of Hope saying that map updates are going to be happening throughout the upcoming seasons, new and returning. So in terms of, opening up the stadium roof, or, granting access to the interior of train station and redesigning that, let's say the community collects, 2 million Verdansk tokens or whatever, and then you can access the train station, and then you can access this place, or this POI gets updated, or they add in a new spot in sort of a dead area on the map. Could be really, really interesting to see how they approach this. I've been very critical of the events so far in Call of Duty, particularly Black Ops 6 this year. Like, the collection-based events that we've seen, go through and collect X many clovers or Y many, Archie Adams or whatever, then you can redeem them for awards, and those rewards are pretty lackluster. I've said those really aren't something that's going to keep me on the game personally much, and I think that's a shared sentiment with a lot of players. But something like this sort of ups the ante a little bit. If you're going through and you're trying to collect these Verdansk tokens, for instance, and at 2 million, you unlock a POI update that you loved back in Modern Warfare 2019, then yeah, maybe there's more incentive to go through and grind out some matches and contribute to this sort of community event update. I think that is an interesting way to approach, map updates and gameplay changes for Verdansk. And obviously from the business side, because at the end of the day, Call of Duty's pretty much doing every update with the business side in mind first, this would definitely help out with retention. If you're, a little bit bored of Verdansk after the first 2 weeks of it returning, it's like, okay, yes, I've played these POIs, I know this map now. But then you hear, oh, they're going to make this change to downtown, or this change to this area of the map. And you're like, oh, okay, if that happens in 2 weeks, yeah, I think I'm going to be back. I want to check that out because that was my favorite spot to land, or I like how the map plays with that change on it. It's a really, really interesting way to approach extending the longevity of Verdansk, and ideally that big resurgence of players that'll be coming back based on the nostalgia, right? So if this leak and this rumor ends up coming to fruition, I'm going to be very curious to see how many different versions and milestones there are for Verdansk, how many times it could potentially change based off of the community collection here. If this is in fact going to be this large community-based event, it could be really cool. So obviously, time is going to tell officially as we see any new reveals, announcements, or more leaks and rumors surface in regards to the Season 3 update and the return of Verdansk. You guys know this is the #1 place to be to stay up to date with all of that and everything else happening in the world of Call of Duty. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and if you enjoyed this video, you're excited for the return of Verdansk, be sure to drop a like on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.